Presenting today is Kevin Tan, Country Manager for Kisler Malaysia, and Mr. Robert Hillinger, Semiconductor Market Development and Application Expert from Kisler, Switzerland. Without further ado, let's start this webinar. Over to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Teddy, and a good very afternoon to everyone in attendance here today. I believe that most of our attendees are from the Asian countries, so very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for taking the time to participate in this webinar. So by the end of this session, I hope you will have a good understanding of how to utilize the benefits of piezoelectric force sensor to improve your respective processes. Just a quick introduction. So like Teddy mentioned, my name is Kevin and I'm responsible for Kisler Malaysia. And presenting with me today is my colleague, Mr. Robert Hillinger. So he is responsible for the development and the application of our semicon markets. And today, together, we bring you almost 3 decades worth of experience in this field. I hope we can share some of our insights with you today through this webinar. So our topic for today is improving semiconductor manufacturing with piezoelectric force measurement. Before we begin, I'd like to speak a bit about Kisler. We are a Swiss-based company and we have been around since 1954. So we have been around for quite a number of years, right? We are the pioneer in piezoelectric technology and piezo-based sensors, so you can be assured that we are a reliable brand. Today, we are in almost 60 plus locations worldwide. We have 2,000 plus employees, and we have more than 12,000 active customers worldwide. One interesting point to note, many of you may already have a Kisler sensor in your production line. This is because we have been working closely with many machine builders to equip their machines with our sensing technology. And most of the time, our sensors are working quietly in the background. It is only in recent years, due to the requirement of IoT and Industry 4.0, that end users are also coming to us for such data to be used either in data analytics or for the further improvements of their processes. So let's explore why we are utilizing force measurement as our control process. To explain why force monitoring is important, we take, for example, the die bonding process. The objective of this is to achieve a good bond between the substrate and the die. Common mechanical problems that occur during this process is either that the force is not applied enough, which impacts the quality of the bond. This will in turn affect the electrical functionality and overall performance of the chip. The other instance is that the force is overextended. This will lead to spillage of the bonding agent, which can also impact functionality performance and long-term degradation. In worst case, this leads to die cracks and internal fractures. Force monitoring in this case is crucial to ensure that the mechanical stress does not exceed the limit stated by the wafer manufacturer. For some other processes where force is critical, such as for front end, processes like grinding, polishing, and dicing. And for back end, it will be die attach, wire bonding, and advanced packaging. But of course, force monitoring is not limited to what has been mentioned. In fact, engineers can benefit from force monitoring in any mechanical processes that come in contact with the wafers or the dies. Even processes like pick and place, turret systems, hip and reels can benefit from such solutions. Within these processes, force deviations can lead to quality issues, which I want to elaborate deeper on the next slide. So in this slide, we see that we start from the failure types, and then we identify the cause, and finally, we reach to the customer value. This is to say, we assist clients all over the world with dynamic force measurement, monitoring, and controlling. By directly measuring the point of contact, this enables us to detect the visible, but more importantly, the non-visible assembly and handling issues. Issues such as warpage and overpresses are brought to light easily with the addition of force monitoring as well. Force monitoring also provides a means for enhanced traceability in the assembly process and provide tracking for the overall machine's performance. This is beneficial for any plant that is involved with Industry 4.0 initiative. On the next slide, we will be looking to increase the market demand for quality in moving forward. We are facing new product requirements every day, from technologies like 5G, artificial intelligence, and smart manufacturing. And these improvements demand that chips get more powerful, packing smaller size chips into more compact and complex architecture. Traceability requirements are also becoming stricter in the automotive industry and within the autonomous vehicle ecosystem. There is widespread agreement that an increasing number of inspection steps, more data from the analyzing equipment, and assessing process variables are needed. Force monitoring is just part of this ecosystem, but it is a crucial one nevertheless. Now I will pass you along to my colleague, Robert, who will highlight some of our global application insights. Robert, over to you.
Thanks, Kevin, for the introduction, and good afternoon and good morning to everyone attending this webinar. I would like to share with you some applications in order to illustrate the adoption of force measurement. As Kevin mentioned, starting from wafer fabrication, wafer level packaging, assembly, until testing, there are many processes, steps where you can benefit from applying force, as you will see during the next few minutes. Here I have put together a slide where you can see in the middle of the circle different applications where force measurement is applied by customers, by semiconductor equipment manufacturers since many years. And firstly, I would like to ask you to imagine the wafer manufacturing process where the wafers are exposed to mechanical loads caused by polishing, grinding, sawing, manual handling, and many others. Keeping mechanical stress within the limits improves process safety. Imagine the wafers which are becoming thinner and thinner, and that means as well they are becoming more sensitive to mechanical loads, and this reinforces the requirements for monitoring and reducing mechanical stress in order to avoid any breakage or defects accordingly. The same is true for lamination and delamination processes, where you can monitor the applied forces in order to make sure the dies are not get damaged by too much force. Another application is lead stamping, where the forces correlates to quality parameters. Others are, as Kevin already said, pick and place, sealing, molding, sorting, and testing. In all these applications, force measurement helps to address mechanical stress issues like warpage, parallelism, tool wear, material change behavior, and malfunctions. And as said before, conventional metrology like vision monitoring, which can help a lot to reduce yield, but is not enough in many applications to make issues visible. In order to illustrate that better, on the next slide, I would like to talk about thermocompression bonding in more detail, which is a typical process served by us, and customers are using our sensors, integrated them into their equipment, as you can see on the right side, where we are showing the applications. And as you know, you have to control temperature, force, and z-axis travel during the bonding process. So that means the die is picked up by the bond head. After the die is then aligned with the substrate, the bond head comes down and stops when the die touches the substrate, as shown here on this slide. And after that, a constant force is applied while the die is heated up quickly beyond the solidus temperature. As soon as the solder joint melts, the die is moved further down to ensure all joints are in contact. I'm not continuing with the complete process. You may be familiar with that, but the important thing is here, and as you can see from the graph, force is absolutely critical in that process, and a force sensor integrated into the bonder head can provide the real-time force signal to the controller. And this allows to overcome challenges during the process. But let's have now a closer look how it works with the controller on the next slide, where you can see in that specific case, 3 sensors has been mounted into the bonder head, which allows not just to control the servo motor, but also with high precision, but also manage warpage and parallelism as well. And the beauty of that solution is that you are getting high resolution up to 0.1 gram, good repeatability, compactness with this very small sensors, and this allows you to perform closed loop control at real time. So which is normally done with a controller such as a PLC or industrial PLC, servo amplifier and motor, and the force sensor and sensor amplifier, as you can see here, 0 to 10 volt, or industrial digital interfaces like Ethercat or Profinet or Ethernet IP. So, and this allows high dynamic force measurement and control. On the next slide, I have another example, a case where a customer had some challenges with mechanical stress during die bonding. Was a little bit an older application or equipment, but the customer had requirements from the automotive industry asking for traceability per product, and therefore we did the customized force sensor and integrated into an existing die bonder vacuum pickup tool. As you can see here, dimensions were very tight. We have the comparison with the Wafer clip. And the customer is now able to measure exactly the mechanical stress which is applied on the die. And he can monitor maximum and minimum force values applied to every die. So he has full traceability for every product produced. And the further advantage is that he needs less time for startup the equipment. He has new material which behaves differently. He can faster adjust his equipment to the new situation. But now let's have a look at more applications. I'm not going in great deal to all these applications. If you have more questions regarding them, please contact us so that we can have a discussion about it and see how we can help or consult with your application. If you recall what I spoke earlier about wafer manufacturing, there are several applications where the wafer is exposed to mechanical stress. With force measurement, you can correlate this mechanical stress to quality parameters. This is one benefit, to keep mechanical stress within the limits. The second one is precise loop control, as shown already, or shown with the thermocompression bonding. So you can use the force signal to perform precise loop control, and you can achieve great downforce precision. Another custom application where we are able to support is lamination and delamination. This we see as well more and more, especially because of the thin wafers. But now let's move on to further applications. Traditional one, lead frame stamping, we see more and more as well, especially I guess because of power semiconductors, where we can, during the pressing process or stamping process, we can correlate the force to the quality parameters and keep the mechanical stress within the limits. The second one is precise loop control, which you can do, and you can as well use it for die attach and wire bonding. These are more traditional applications and are supported by Kistler for decades. However, here as well, miniaturization and higher quality requirements are demanding better process control, and dynamic force control can add value here. We have here wire bonder, as said before, thermocompression, thermosonic and ultrasonic. This can all be supported with dynamic force measurement. Piezoelectric force sensors allow here to measure the force in real time. Typical forces are 0 to 10 Newton, measured in milliseconds and grams, and can identify potential damages or conditions like head bounce, vibration, malfunctions during operation. In addition, semiconductor equipment manufacturer can use the signal for more accuracy, because they have this additional parameter, and do precise loop control with that signal. Die sorting is also something which we see more and more. As we all know, dies are becoming smaller. We have also some LEDs is also one topic which is becoming more challenging to handle them, because they are really small, below 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter or even lower. And by removing them from a die or moving it from one package or from one carrier medium to another, there you can install a piezoelectric force sensor to the die ejector, and so you are able to measure or monitor the amount of force which is applied during the moving process. And what I have said about bonding is applies to sintering as well. One important thing here is to be aware is that the high temperatures in sintering favor the use of piezoelectric sensors, as they have a high temperature resistance. Piezoelectric wide measurement range is a feature. This can be applied at fair bond tester. You need only one sensor for a broad measuring range. 1 to 10 kilonewton is possible with a piezoelectric sensor. This is the big advantage. We spoke about thermocompression bonding already. Same can be applied for flip chip and other bonding technologies. And something different is the encapsulation process. where you transfer, where you have compression molding, where a casting material is forced into a mold, and there we have a different sensor, a pressure sensor, which can be installed into the mold, and this allows accurately measure and monitor the fluctuations in viscosity. So deviations then are indications for defective products, such as wire deformations. And then we have test contactors, sockets, surface, the interface between the test handler and the semiconductor device under test. And there you can as well integrate the piezoelectric sensor, and then you know exactly the force which has been required for every insertion into the socket. So in summary, we can see that dynamic force measuring can add benefit and value to many semiconductor production processes. So let's conclude on the next slide. So production processes are becoming more complex. I guess we agree on that. Everybody wants to increase yield and reduce the PPM rate. So therefore, improve methods for process monitoring and failure identifications are needed by the industry. And dynamic force measurement is a tool, is a measurement method which can monitor and control the critical physical value force. And with that, I would like to hand over to my colleague Kevin to talk about dynamic force measurement, the technology, and its capability.
Thank you, Robert. And thank you for sharing a little bit about the individual processes where our sensors can be used. So now I will talk a bit about what is piezoelectric technology. Also, why is it suitable for semiconductor processes? And what are the key advantages that such sensors can bring to your processes? So let's move to the next slide. The next slide. Here, the structure of the crystal. At this point, I wish to highlight that piezoelectric is actually a naturally occurring phenomenon that happens in some crystals, and the most common type that we use is quartz. Upon mechanical force loading of the piezoelectric crystal, it will generate an electrical charge response that is directly proportionate to the amount of force applied. And this charge we normally measure in picocoulombs. Due to the extreme high rigidity of the crystal, the overall deformation during the force exertion is extremely low, and the resulting output is very linear. This high linearity extends across the sensor measuring range, which in several orders of magnitude. So it could be up to 10 newtons, 100 newtons, or even 100 kilonewtons. This provides our sensor with a very high overload protection. Our construction of force sensor starts at the crystal level and proceeds with its precision cutting, then advanced package to ultimately produce a high quality sensor. The next slide, we will see a demonstration of the unique resolution which offers impact and industrial force measurement. So here we see it's a demonstration where we place an O-ring on a piezoelectric sensor that has a measuring range of up to 10 kilonewtons. That is an equivalent of 1 ton of force. And you can see on the right-hand side that we have the graph plotted out force versus time. So if you notice on the graph, we see an initial load spike where the weight of the O-ring was placed. Furthermore, you see that the static part where the weight of the O-ring stabilizes, and it's about 0.032 newtons. This is almost 1/3 of a gram. And here we want to show that even with a force sensor that has a measuring range as high as 10 kilonewton, it is able to measure accurately and with high resolution small forces or small changes that happens onto the sensor. This unique capability of piezoelectric technology enables one to view small force deviations while providing high overload protection to the measuring system. This ensures that you do not waste time having to replace damaged sensors all the time, but spend your time on other things that are more valuable. So, how many of you have experienced damaging fragile components and having to down a machine for many hours just to get it replaced? You don't have to answer that, or you can maybe share your experience on the Q&A section. Next, we will look at the compact size and further discuss about rigidity. High resolution and wide measuring range in a compact sensor size. These are the very desirable features that presents itself in a piezoelectric force sensor. The sensor on the left, you can see it's a 9132 CD, and it measures only 12 millimeter in diameter and has a height of 3 millimeter. But its maximum measuring range is 7,000 newtons, with a capability of reaching resolutions down to 0.001 newton. This is amazing for a sensor to have such a huge overload capacity, but yet maintaining such a good resolution. Furthermore, high sensor rigidity allows for excellent dynamic force measurement performance. This is important in certain processes like front-end wafer processing. If you are aware, the control of the position in front end has to be very precise, and they cannot afford for their sensors to collapse due to low rigidity or the sensor being soft material. Our sensors also come in a variety of designs for flexibility of installation. So all you need to do is speak to your local Kistler rep for the best solutions. The next topic I would like to show you is on repeatability. Repeatability is understood as serial precision, meaning the ability to output the same results under repetitive measurements. We have done a demonstration for a customer, and in this demonstration, we set up a servo press system as illustrated on the left-hand side. This system repeatedly applies and removes 29.1 grams of weight over an extensive period of time. Unfortunately, we can't show you the results of the experiment due to NDA that's signed, but we can share with you that we were able to produce a repeatability of plus minus 0.1 gram for the customers. And this is excellent results. I would like to point out, for good repeatability, piezoelectric measuring systems provide an advantage in their ability to quickly reset the signal conditioner before each and every measuring cycles. This allows the measuring cycle to be quickly adapted to repetitive assembly cycles. Potential measurement errors, such as external temperature influences, are thus excluded from the measurements each time you reset the system. Essentially, you are doing a tiring for every cycle, and yet the system is quick enough to cope with the fast response of semicon processes. On the next slide, we'll look at some examples of force measurement systems for manufacturing. So a piezoelectric sensor requires a signal conditioner, because if you remember earlier on in the slides, the signals that we produce are in pico coulomb. Therefore, you will need either a charge amplifier to convert this signal into an analog signal that is readily accepted by perhaps your PLC or your process controller, or digitize this signal and have a a controller to do the monitoring for you. In the top view, we see the traditional signal chain, where you have a force sensor connected to a charge amplifier and then to the PLC. In this way, the PLC has to make the decision of whether the cycle process is good or bad. The customer or programmer will have to write this program or code and evaluate the outcome. Kistler also supplies controllers that is able to make this good or bad decision for the customer. So the charge amplifier is already integrated into our controllers, and therefore the customers connect the force sensors to our process monitoring controller and directly onto perhaps a database or the PLC for the next process step. We are coming towards the end of our presentation, as the next slide is on key takeaways. So in conclusion, piezoelectric force measurement is the technology to make the invisible impact of mechanical stress visible. A lot of times we are familiar with a very high resolution position control and vision monitoring, but we are not yet exposed to force monitoring directly. And this is because in the past, technologies like piezoelectric is not readily available to the market. But today, with the advancement of crystal technology, we have managed to bring up the sensitivity of the crystals, improve the resolution of the sensors, such that they are able to perform in a very optimum manner for low force. With its high resolution and wide measuring range, it can help to increase the quality and decrease the PPM failure rates by quickly detecting problems such as die crack, fractures, and overpress. Piezoelectric technology is ideal for high-speed, repetitive manufacturing processes. Because of its high rigidity, there is virtually no wear, and the result is that your sensors last for a very, very long time. And finally, you have full traceability, so you have the data to improve your process further. So with this, I think we move on to the Q&A section, and I pass you back to Teddy.
Thank you very much to Kevin and Robert for this insightful session on using piezoelectric force measurement to improve semiconductor manufacturing processes. Now let's start our Q&A session. Feel free to type in your questions on the Q&A section on the right. So while waiting for the questions to come in, here's a question that we typically get from our sharing sessions. Kevin, what about older machines? Can we retrofit those if we need the data for some improvements?
Yes, so it is possible to retrofit older machines, but of course, as you know, with ready machines, there are challenges that come with it, mainly on the space constraint and also on cablings. However, we have successfully helped some customers in this area. So the best advice I would have is, if you have an older machine that you wish to retrofit, contact your local sales rep, and they will have to take a look at your machine, assess how is the assembly and where is the best way to incorporate a force sensor inside.
Thank you, Kevin. And here is the first question from our attendee. So can we use your solution for Industry 4.0 initiatives?
Okay, I will take that question. So yes, definitely you can use force sensors for Industry 4.0. The basis of Industry 4.0 is basically data, and that is exactly what our sensor provides. The first step for Industry 4.0 would be data collection for analysis, and then subsequently for production planning and for process improvements. But in our opinion, the next step is more beneficial, and this is what excites the market, which is predictive maintenance. So predictive maintenance can apply to tool wear. Right now, the industry practices periodic maintenance where they replace their tools at a fixed period of time. But with predictive maintenance, you know when your tool starts to fail and you change accordingly. And that could essentially save companies a lot of money in their maintenance costs.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And let's see. Another question we have is, what is the maximum accuracy for our force sensors?
Hi, Robert. Could you take that question? But I think you are muted.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. Yes, this is a questions which we are getting regularly about accuracy. So unfortunately, there is no single answer to this one. As we know, accuracy is depending on the environmental conditions. Where is the sensor built in? How is the sensor integrated into the mechanical structure? And if you want to achieve higher accuracy, you have to look at the complete measuring frame and the complete setup. But what we can say, and what you have seen before, so there are big advantages with piezo sensors when it comes to high dynamic measurement, like this high resolution, repeatability, and so it makes it outstanding compared to other technologies.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, so the next question we have is, why are piezo sensors suitable for semicon processes?
Thank you, Teddy. I will take that. So basically, we have three key advantages to piezoelectric sensors. The first would be fast response. Our sensors are able to cope with very high speeds. Even 30,000 to 50,000 UPH is not a problem, as our fastest operation is at least 40 microseconds per cycle, right? The second one we have spoke about is on the high rigidity. So this means that our sensors will not affect the positioning of your machines even after you install it. High rigidity also provides a very good response rate for the signals. So that's why you find a lot of piezoelectric sensors are used in dynamic signals. That means very fast processes where you need to capture every single data point accurately. And the third part would be the wide measuring range. So even though we are measuring low force, but we don't want the sensors to be so fragile that they break every time maintenance is done. So that's why most of the sensors you find in semicon machines that are measuring maybe tens of 20s of grams, but in actual fact, they are able to take up to 5,000, 6,000 newtons, right? Which virtually you'll find it very, very difficult to damage the sensors. And finally, I would say is that calibration also becomes easy. So all you need to do is just to put in reference sensors to calibrate your unit under test, which is in the machine, against the reference sensor. And for Malaysia, and I believe a lot of other countries, we are able to help the customers with that as well.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And that is all the time we have for today. Thank you very much to all of you for your time. If you have further questions down the road, feel free to write to Kevin or Robert, and we will definitely assist you. Kistler will also have a booth in the upcoming Semicon Southeast Asia 2022, taking place in Setia Spice Arena and Convention Center in Penang, Malaysia, from 21st to 23rd June. We hope to see you there as well. Thank you and take care.